Why is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Hello.
Beth, do you hear me? Beth, do you hear me calling? Beth, I'm
Yes.
calling.
No, I can't come home right now.
Okay. You and the boys are playing, and you just can't find your sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Nope.
happens.
Just a few more hours.
Yeah.
I'll be back home to you.
Oh,
What can I do?
Beth. What can we do?
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
Works for everything.
It really does. Now we just need to go get somebody named Beth to be on the show, or just to work on the show. I think would be ideal.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, a reluctant producer named Beth would be.
We do. Maybe we could ask one of our reluctant producers if they'd be willing to change their name for the show.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, I'm thinking John.
Yes.
Was that
John should
yeah.
definitely become Beth.
Yes. Is he listening, do you think?
No.
Yeah.
He started liking our posts again, though.
All right. Well, maybe
That's a
he's out
start.
from. I don't know. I picture him I guess I picture him hibernating most of the winter.
Really? See, he's out and about in the winter.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the beard
Yeah, he definitely
and
has
the
a winter
jovial
look.
nature. Yeah. No, he has a
But,
homeless look. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
he's an
I didn't.
artist.
Yeah. Yeah, but come on.
Oh, you know.
Couldn't comb your hair every once in a while. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you that I've
Yes.
been wondering about. So maybe you know, how much do you know about Spandau Ballet? I mean,
Not
was it rhetorical?
as
That
much
was
as
just
a lot of people. Oh,
because
I'd like to say I know enough about them, but maybe I don't.
right. Oh, because so I watched the documentary about them, Soul Boys of the Western World, a few years ago, and I don't feel like they addressed this. So I have heard the name, and I can't find where I read this, which makes it all the more like I don't know. Supposedly Spandau Ballet was the nickname, or not nickname, but the jargon they used at one of the concentration camps when they hung somebody. The body spasms as the body is hanging there post death.
Okay, this sounds familiar.
And I have heard that like that was a term that people used, and the fact that this band that kind of is known for nothing that serious comes up with a name that seems like something that Joy Division, which is another name that supposedly came
Yes.
from concentration camps, that they should sound like that.
Right.
That everything Spandau Ballet ever released should sound like Blue Monday, just
It should,
but more.
but more.
But
Yeah,
I
but
feel like
none of it does.
no, and I feel like I have not been able to find something that acknowledges like, yes, this is where they got the name from. Because I think there's another story of like just there was a ballet and it was called Spandau. This is where I've been.
I don't know. Have you looked up just Spandau?
Let's see.
I mean, it seems
They were the cut.
definition. What does Spandau mean? This is depressing.
I know. It's one of those things where I'm like,
It's a German machine gun, Spandau. It's also the 5th of the 12 boroughs of Berlin, 4th largest westernmost, situated at the confluence of the Havel and Spree rivers.
okay, so here's something. The Telegraph says they got their name. Oh, I don't want to start my free trial.
No, I know the Telegraph asks us an awful lot. It's
Um,
also a fortified town of Prussia.
so who is this? iHeartRadio, and it's a giant conglomerate. How could they be wrong?
Right, they have to be right.
So one thing said that it was a piece of graffiti they saw written on a wall in Berlin.
Okay.
Some others, I guess, said they just liked the sound of the two words put together. although apparently one refers to the jerky movements of Nazi war prisoners hanged at the Spandau prison,
See?
or it refers to enemy lines getting shot down by the World War II machine gun. The whatever.
So either way, it's circling around this subject matter.
Right, that they should not sound like that with that name.
It doesn't.
But
it
other
doesn't
bands
work.
are that should not sound like, you know?
Yeah, well, a lot of them don't sound like their names sound. Right?
Well,
I think.
like who?
I knew you were gonna say that.
So what was the first part of your process? Was it eating crickets or making pasta?
Definitely, it's about the crickets. Pasta is just a possibility of using cricket powder as an ingredient. Um, and pasta came to my mind. People think because I'm Italian, but actually it's not. I was just thinking, what would you do with a flour that is a dry, has a long shelf life, and everyone eats in the West, and that's definitely pasta. Bread could be another opportunity, but shelf life of bread is very short. And crackers would be a good idea. And now I'm working on a snack. Um, Instead, I would say in the US especially, a lot of startups are focusing on energy bars. I'm not sure if that is the way to go for the flour, cricket flour, but yeah, definitely that's another possibility because of the protein content.
What was the first time you ever tasted a cricket?
Oh, good question. As a Westerner, I'm also I have the same habits as any other Westerner, and some food taboo, some food barriers are definitely just, in my opinion, they just relate to our food habit. It's not even culture. It's just what we are taught when we were kids, and that's why with kids is very easy. They still don't have this habit for them still in the first years, and while older people is we see is much more harder to change their mindset about the food they eat. So for me, it was also pretty hard. But my nephews were visiting me in Bangkok, and we stumbled into the usual street food with fried insects. And so, because they wanted to try, I did it too. That was before I started doing business with crickets, obviously. But then the experience for me, as for most of the people, is that the taste is good. And while everyone was expecting the taste to be bad, because the psychological barrier you have in eating insects translate into the idea that the taste will be bad. So everyone is immediately surprised. Oh, tastes good. Yes, why not?
It is good. I have had crickets, and they're very
We get it. We get it. You're cultured.
Stop it.
So, as someone who has not had crickets, what do they taste like? And how do you make them into pasta? Is it a ground up powder that then
Definitely. I just work with powders. So I've been working, now I work with cricket powder, but I've been in China for a couple of years working with silkworm powder because China has a gigantic quantity of silkworm pupa that they don't use after they get the silk from the cocoon. Um, and I believe powders are the way to go because um, the whole insects is eating that is a tradition in many countries. Usually is in provinces, is not the whole country, and there's been going on for centuries. But that's kind of also a very basic way to eat something. We do recipes. We um, um, we put together ingredients in the kitchen to make our food, or if we go to the supermarket we will find packaged food that is a mix of a number of ingredients, So there are very few cases where we eat just one thing that is an animal, by the way. So I believe the traditional way of eating insects will go on in population in some populations in some areas, but the new way to use insects as an ingredient, mostly through powder, but we may see innovations in that, is a completely different market with people that have different motivation. The taste is not the only one, becomes nutritional and becomes sustainability, and they will pay a premium price because there is more processing and because there are early adopters, and the companies are investing in this and need support. So it's kind of completely different. Therefore, there might be cases where you don't even taste the insect because it's just a percentage of an ingredient added for the nutritional properties to a food. But in general, yeah, you would say that the taste is good. Even with worms, they taste, they say nutty, crickets, a little fishy. I would say they might have some relation with shrimps. So they are often compared to shrimps. Um, and and it's not, and it's a mild flavor. Is while people expect a punch in the face because insect, wow, so they think it's gonna be a taste that they never had before, but it's not like that. It's pretty normal, and it becomes normal once you start eating something with crickets. The shocking idea that we shouldn't eat insects after 2 or 3 times you had a meal with insects, it's gone. So for me now it's becoming very hard to understand why some Western people still have a problem with that, because I got used to that, and I see it's the same with other people. It's really a matter. It's like you go to live in a different country, and there is something that you would never consider eating in your country, but you live here and you start doing that. After a few weeks, it's the most normal thing in your life.
And like you said, culturally in the East, it's far more common at this point in time to eat bugs in some shape or form. How do you think is the best way to get people in the West to try it? Like a dare?
No, I would say this should be, we should prepare and help the consumers by making them comfortable. So I'm against any trick, for example, hiding the cricket or having someone testing cricket without telling them it's cricket. Because here we are playing on a psychological level where we have a fear that's not rational and has no reason to exist. And so we have to make people really feeling like this is not strange, this is safe, because I got a lot of requests about safety, and it's definitely safe. Insects that we use are farmed usually in certified farms, are processed in certified facilities, are tested in labs. So of course it's safer than other food actually, but the fear also um, uh, brings on this additional question that the people have. So the best experience is with a packaged food, no possibility to see whole insects, like a photo on the package or inside of the food.
No
Um,
animated cartoons selling
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And be in my opinion, this is everyone in this small industry said that. So no images, normal food packaged, safe, well communicated. But I would add that, in my opinion, it's also important to find these products in supermarkets and corner shops, because in the first 5 years of this new trend, um, I've seen most of the startups trying to sell online because it's difficult to convince the distribution if you don't have numbers and track records of sales with a new food that it will work well. But actually, if we are not convincing distributors, retailers, and supermarkets to be in a place where people normally buy food, not just online where you can buy anything, we don't get the credibility from the distribution system. It's harder to make the people comfortable in relation to that fear that they have with insects. In the US, for example, the distribution is still not jumping on the bandwagon of insects. While in Europe, despite it's technically legal to sell insects as food there yet, but some supermarkets just decided to test this, and I hear it's going very well, much better than selling those online.
What is your favorite way to prepare and eat an insect?
Yeah. Actually, one thing is that there are not so many recipes around or places where you can taste insects mixed in a way like a chef would do to have an ingredient together with other ingredients that happens in Bangkok. There is a restaurant now that serve insects, but I would say mostly they use whole insects tossed on dishes. While in Siem Reap, Cambodia, a French guy is running a bug restaurant, and I visited them a few months ago, and they really worked on the recipes with their chefs. Um, so they most of the some dishes you still see the insects together with like in a salad, but some dishes the insects has been prepared in the kitchen in a way that you won't see them, so you can focus on the taste instead of the visual. So I remember a samosa with tarantula as an ingredient, and tarantula, is even more scary than a cricket, but actually it tastes good. Tastes good. So I would say that
Like chicken?
samosa,
Like chicken?
kind of, yes,
Okay.
chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also an experience, because because of what we imagine a spider is in our mind. So
Hmm.
but actually, even in Europe, in Italy or in France, we eat things that, if you think about it, it's pretty horrible. Things that we we wouldn't easily kill, like a horse, or we, if we look at it, it looks a little like a monster, like frogs or snails. Not to mention that in Italy, there is a region where they eat a cheese with worms alive inside.
Yeah. Oh.
And
Well, but
because
even
got
when
used
you,
to this cheese is very famous in Italy. So we always heard about this. Even if we haven't had it, we know it exists. But because we always heard of this, I think most of the people would try that. They say, okay, it's a little scary, but my grandfather used to eat it. So in the end, is not that complicated, I think, to convince people. Having more recipes would help. More restaurants that serve a dish like that also would help. Because, yeah, personally, I know there are some books on Amazon with recipes. But then if you want to go out, even in Bangkok, and find something more than a simple fried whole insects, that's not easy to find.
do you think the way to get more people used to it is to have restaurants specialize in this, or does that become a fad versus like, I mean, like you were saying, fine cuisine, especially in Europe, you look at sweetbreads, you look at the French duck press, it's kind of
Mm,
gnarly when you really get into it.
Rocky Mountain oysters.
Yeah, do you think that's the way to go and say we're going to serve all bugs here, or do you think it's better to give it to chefs and say, have at this, put this on your menu, and include it with all your other fine foods?
yeah, I think the two things, recipes and chefs cooking insects, will go on a parallel side with packaged food.
Hmm.
Probably packaged food will be more important to get people used to this, especially because I believe it should be treated as an ingredient, and the taste is definitely number one reason, but the nutritional properties are also very important. So it's in between a normal food and nutraceutical superfood that you eat for the nutritional properties. Um, and so definitely you now there are a few products in the US, chips, tortilla chips with crickets, um, few energy bars. I remember some cookies from California, from BT, but basically there is very little in terms of packaged food. While in Europe, I've seen startups doing many more different packaged foods, including burgers, meatballs, bread, crackers, um, and and um, and I think there is a lot of space there for innovating in terms of industrial process. So you just have a cricket flour or a powder, or you extract the protein, or you extract the oil, and you have the fatted powder, or you make soluble. You know, a lot of people in fitness would probably consider it for if it's soluble, because usually they drink the protein they buy. So all these things relates to industrial processes that has not been tested yet because they require investments. And in terms of product category, also there is a lot that should be done to see what the consumer may like. For me, because of the taste that really match wheat flour or rice flour, um, the definitely pasta, bread, crackers, dry stuff is the easiest to think of. Also
Hmm.
chips and yes.
I was going to ask, what happens? What are the benefits I get from eating crickets? Can I jump higher, or do my legs just make a really cool noise when I rub them together at night?
You know, I'm Italian, so my kitchen is a lot about carbs,
Hmm.
um,
Sure.
pasta and pizza, and carbs are not bad for health, but in terms of the problem with obesity we have everywhere in the Western world, now we are looking at protein like a very interesting solution, and reducing the carbs, increasing the protein is what everyone wants. So I would say that, but if you look at protein sources, some cheap like whey powders,
Hmm.
um, usually it's poor in terms of other nutritional values. While with crickets, you really have a lot of minerals: iron, copper, magnesium, potassium, and some vitamins. I would say minerals more than vitamins. And so yeah, it's I'm not a nutritionist, so this question would be mostly for a nutritionist, but to me it looks like a very good idea. And I would say that so many startups popped up even with little money most of the time, because some young entrepreneurs, not in my case but in their case, when they found out the nutrition, mostly the nutritional properties and the taste, they said this is simply a no-brainer. It's just a good idea.
Now, to end sort of on the upbeat good news, the other thing I keep reading about cricket powder and cricket flour and using crickets as a protein is that it is environmentally, given the population of the world, that it's not really heading down on average, assuming what's going on is an aberration, uh, that we are going to be needing more protein. And cows and other animals like that are usually relied upon, there's just not enough. And we're going to need to find some other way to eat things. It seems like you're sort of ahead of the curve with this and putting this out and saying, you know, here's crickets, here's what we can do with them. Do you see what's that curve, do you think? When do you think, as a planet, that sort of everyone starts to realize, oh, we got to do something different? And this may taste a little funny, but you get used to it, or hey, I don't really notice a difference, or I like the flavor. Um, when do you think we kind of start to make that curve where everybody's saying, yeah, go grab some cricket flour, let's make a pizza, let's do something else with this?
I'm not sure cricket flour will become a retail product.
Hmm.
There had been tests with the. I mean, I know some startups in North America who packaged the cricket flour in small package, even in Australia, in a few cases, in UK for sure. But from what I heard, it didn't work well. We are trying to convince people to buy products like a cracker or an energy bar with insect, and it's already not that easy because of the psychological barrier. But going the next step and having people treating this as an ingredient to bring home for cooking, to me, it looks a little like a long shot, or maybe it's for that. But this is my opinion. But packaged food, now people may start buying that also on the criteria of sustainability, which I think maybe just two years ago wouldn't be that much the case. Before I've read some market analysis saying that people is, let's say the majority of the people, mainstream is pretty selfish. I mean, only a very small percentage really decide that they take decision on purchasing products based on sustainability. But the interesting thing is in the last survey I've seen from last year, because we all perceive the ecological crisis as something that is really closer and more likely to happen than we thought. I've seen the market research saying very different result and a lot of attention for sustainability. So I may say that the environmental part that when I started 5 years ago, I considered like an additional selling plus, but not the key one, might in the future be a very important one because really it's changing the consumer perception about the risk with the environment. And the risk with the environment now, one of the 10 biggest, I would say, is the beef. Is not just because of the quantity we can afford to have to feed the population, but mostly because of the pollution they create directly and indirectly. Practically, I don't know what percentage of the corn farmed in the US is farmed just to feed the cows that are, I'm sorry for them, but they are really inefficient as an animal to convert this. But, I mean, the nature designed them to eat grass.
Right.
And grass is one of the poorest feed you can have. So for eating this, they had to have a stomach that is I would say is made in a very weird way, and because they have to process the grass, and then because corn was more convenient, especially in North America, they've been converted to their diet, but still they are very inefficient. So the methane gas they produce, the amount of feed they need, and especially the amount of water is unbelievable. It's compared to get 1 kilo of cricket meat, you save 1,000 time water. You need 1,000 times less water than 1 kilo of beef, and 10 times less feed. So this says a lot about how much feed the cow needs and how much water they need. So for me, the beef is kind of an ecological disaster. The swine, pork meat is kind of in the middle, and I have to say the chicken really get close to crickets. Crickets are better in converting the feed and water consumption, emission, everything, land usage, beat the chicken too. But I will say the chicken is the most environmental among the three. On top of that, the crickets also they don't have diseases that they can transmit to humans apparently. So in this,
Nice.
in
So
this
when?
Yeah.
members, they have viruses, for example, that may kill the entire population, but those viruses cannot be transmitted to humans because the DNA of a cricket is so different from our. So it's an interesting solution, definitely, for the environment.
For everything you need to know about Massimo and cricket protein and cricket pasta, check out his company's website. They are at Bugsolutely.com.
You can follow us on all the various socials. Our website is whythepodcast.com and has all sorts of additional stories and videos. It's also where you can sign up for our newsletter. We're also on YouTube, if you're into that kind of thing. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, because if you don't, we'll call your mother and tell her that she's completely right. You would look so much prettier if you smiled more.
Why the Podcast is part of Mudhouse Media. Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mustonen. The theme song was performed by the Electrosynth-O-Magnetic Polyphonic Orchestra. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?